It will be remembered by future generations that Duke Ellington was a great composer for orchestra, and specifically, of course, for his own orchestra. That was what he did best, was write for the musicians when he had a particular artist in mind. If he had Cootie Williams in the trumpet section, he wrote a number that was designed to suit the personality of Cootie Williams. The same with Johnny Hodges on alto saxophone, same with Lawrence Brown on trombone, the same with all of them.
If an idea comes, it can come at the piano, it can come away from the piano, it can come while you're riding around the country. So it comes when you have isolation, mental isolation. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be alone. It can happen when you're with other people, you can be in a big crowd, but you have that mental isolation, something stimulates and comes out.
Sometimes we'd ride down the highway at night, and we were going from one place to another, and maybe the band was going to stay overnight in one place, or either they'd ride the bus, and Duke and I would be traveling, and he'd say, "Lights," and I'd turn the overhead light on, and he'd sit there and mumble a little and write on gum wrappers and cigarette papers and all that, and matchboxes. And then when we'd get where we were going, he would say, "Herbie, put this together." And just hand him all these wrappers and things. And that night he would tell, in one of these small towns, he'd say, "I've written this wonderful tune for you." And that was the rehearsal night. He'd rehearse this for these people and then go on to where we were going to a big concert. He'd be ready when we got there. And he'd rehearse that in all these little small towns, that he had written this special thing for them.
He'd play one show at 9 o'clock in the evening, and with a bevy, after that show there would be a bevy of ladies over 60 in his suite, you know, caring for him, and, you know, he called them his girls, these 50 to 60-year-old ladies. After which he'd go down and play another show about 1 o'clock in the morning, socialize after the show, and at 4 in the morning would call me up and say, "Alvin, are you ready to work?" Meaning, "Are you ready to work on the river?" So I would go down, and he would be in his robe with his piano, his portable piano in front of his bed, and his music sheets, and from 4 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the morning, we would work on the river. And then after I'd had it, I'd leave about 7 in the morning, go to bed. I would hear his piano tinkling until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. The River is a ballet for which Duke wrote the music and for which we had a very close collaboration. It was a ballet that was commissioned by American Ballet Theater in the early 70s, and I actually spent time with him on the road while we were trying to conceive this ballet. He had by then collected all the great water music of the world, I mean Handel's water music and Ravel's La Mer. He had researched accurately all the water music, all the water themes, and all of that to prepare for this ballet. Ellington's music is very danceable, and he himself thought his music was dance music. He told me that any tune that he played was supposed to make people move. In searching through the Ellington canon of music, I found this piece called Night Creature, a piece which was especially interesting because it's written for a symphony orchestra and the Ellington band. And the particular recording we use has Duke Ellington on piano and all of his wonderful soloists like Johnny Hodges and Paul Gonsalves, together with the Paris Opera Ballet Orchestra and the Swedish Symphony Orchestra, you know. There's a very interesting section of music. There's a sensuous second movement which is based around a piano solo of Ellington's. What it is composed of what, you know, came before, together with his genius added to it. I mean, there are elements of ragtime and blues and swing and probably early folk songs. I mean, Creole Love Call and, you know, Eastern sophistication, and it's you know, it's just a huge talent. I mean, it connects us with our past, the Ellington music. You know, it's some of those Ellington tunes are the black folks' national anthems, you know.
We never talked about race. He would believe more or less that people were people, because his friends went from any color or any craft or anything, but he never believed in colors. He never went, and as far as I know, he never went in for coloring. He just said people are people. And some of his best friends are Chinese, Japanese, white, black, everything. And that's why I think that the black, brown, and beige covers everyone.
And now we'd like to play portions of Black, Brown, and Beige. Black, Brown, and Beige was a rather long piece we introduced in 1943 in New York at Carnegie Hall.
For Ellington, the introduction of Black, Brown, and Beige marked the beginning of a new phase of creating and performing extended works. Ellington referred to Black, Brown, and Beige as a tone parallel to the history of the American Negro. When asked about his attitude regarding the struggle of black Americans, Ellington stated that he involved himself through his music. He preferred the implied statement, the unconscious flow of social comment naturally reflected in his works. Such compositions as Black and Tan Fantasy, Deep South Suite, Afro-Eurasian Eclipse, and the Harlem Suite gave evidence of his recognition of his Afro-American origins.
Yes, I think he did make statements in his music, and I think the statements were more or less for people to realize their situation in life. And I think most of Duke's music was happy music. You know, you always had a beat to his music. So I think that's the way he expressed himself as far as our people. We have a beat, and that's the way our music is. Just music, not jazz.
Jazz, we don't use the word jazz. As a matter of fact, we haven't used it since 1943. We believe that everything is so highly personalized that you just can't find a category big enough. And jazz certainly isn't big enough a category to combine so many wonderful people in it. You know, you go back and you take all the great people who have been listed in the history of jazz, like Bechet and Armstrong, and you know, all of them. You know, Django, Dizzy Gillespie, Hawk, all great people. Ben Webster. Everybody's got his own individual style. In a country in the Far East where you have billions of people, a very, very tiny percentage of them have even heard of the word jazz, you know, or know anything about it. And so we can't depend upon it, the word. We can't depend upon anything. You just have to go out and you do a performance, and the performance is believable, they respond. If it's acrobatic, they respond. If it's sensuous, they respond. And that's all we can depend upon. The name doesn't mean anything. It's all in how believable or how sensitive the oral presentation. And if it's agreeable to their ear, then you are very fortunate, because then you are together, you know. My people. Oh, my people. What can I tell you about my people?
Ellington was adamant in his refusal to be confined to categories, whether regarding his music or his identity. When asked about his relationship to his people, his response